I just finished cutting this round circle out of this plastic screen wire. This is not metal, it's plastic, very flexible, very easy to work with. I like that, and it doesn't stick you, it doesn't make you bleed. The whole idea of repairing our speaker, we only have to go down about this far. We only have to go down about that far. We don't have to go way down in here somewhere. Kind of keep it at a minimum. And my initial idea for this was to go out and buy a fiberglass kit that you used on cars for repairing fenders and things. And then go ahead and take some fiberglass and lay it around. Put your resin on, put your fiberglass on there, and then apply more resin. Someone else had that idea too, but that's pretty messy. The fiberglass sticks to everything and it frays. You got a heck of a mess when you're all done. And the results are usually good though. It makes it nice and stiff. However, then I decided, well, what about epoxy? Maybe I can just go ahead and epoxy this. But then I began to think, well, I think after a while with this thing vibrating and vibrating and vibrating, I think the epoxy would begin to crack over a few years. It's not going to hold up forever and ever. So I tried, I told my wife, I talked to her about the Viagra idea. Someone came up with a Viagra idea. She said no, she didn't want Viagra on my speaker. I said okay. Okay, so I came up with an idea to go ahead and use the resin for the, from the fiberglass repair kit that you can buy at any auto parts store. But Gary, the guy with the brains, he came up, he said, stay away, you're right, don't use the fiberglass, use screen wire. So I did. I went out in my old shed and I found a couple of pieces of old screen wire I had laying around, still in good shape, and I cut it into an arc. And ladies and gentlemen, that thing is going to be brought around in a circle like this, just like you see it right here. And I am going down to the auto parts store tomorrow on the way to work, and I'm going to find out if I can buy some of that resin. Meanwhile, until I get my hot little hands on some of that resin, what I'm going to do is take both my hands and form this around here as tightly as I can to where it conforms to the shape of the cone. I'm going to put a couple drops of super glue on the screen wire, not on the cone itself, on the screen wire to hold it together. So when the time comes, it'll be in the shape I need it, and all I have to do is set it down on there. I went ahead and put the super glue on the screen wire, and while it's drying, I'm going to go ahead and take some of this 600 grit silicon carbide wet dry sandpaper. I'm going to use it dry, and I'm going to hold my hand on the inside of the cone to kind of give myself some support, and then we're going to kind of rough up around the area that we're going to be applying the glue. I'm not going to sand through this cone. I just want to take off part of the glaze, and it's going to be very, very lightly done. She's now sanded, and one of the problems I've been having since discovering that this thing is all weak and spongy and soft in the center, the cone, I guess from being screwed up so badly, it keeps wanting to draw back into the shriveled up shape, and which ultimately what's happening is this metal disc is going down, and the outside edge of this speaker is coming up. So I'm going to put a little bead of super glue around there to keep that from happening. I don't want this metal piece to move, because once I lay that screen wire, once I put whether it be fiberglass resin or whether it be epoxy, whatever we decide to use or are forced to use, I don't want it to sink down in while it's drying. So I'm going to try to cement the edge of the paper, or the edge of the cone, to the copper metal right here. Alright, a thin bead has been placed all the way around it, and now we'll let it dry, and hopefully it'll keep its shape, and this copper disc won't sink down in. I don't want the disc to be just my luck. We get the resin on, we get the screen on, and while it's drying, it just sinks down in, and then, man, we really got our hands full of crap then. For those that are interested, this is not your typical speaker cone material. This is pressed cardboard, really thick stuff. And it's probably 3 or 4 times thicker than the old paper cones that eventually replaced it. So you can't treat it like you do a modern cone. You have to It's tough, it can take a lot, and we're going to give it a lot. We're going to make sure this baby stays in shape. Alright, let's set this little thing of screen wire on there. Let's see how that fits now. Oh, that's going to be great. That's going to be perfect. That's going to be just right. Oh, there you go. Look at that. Look at that. That's going to be great. We'll go ahead and put that resin around there. Really going to be good, I hope. Keep your fingers crossed, folks. Well, as luck would have it, I went to my favorite fiberglass resin place, and they wanted a lot of money for that resin. My God, I couldn't believe it. I mean, it ranged anywhere from $15 to $25, and it was much more than I needed. So, that forced me to resort to Plan B. Plan B is 5-minute epoxy. I originally had this taped off like this. I used a very thin tape to tape it off, and then I taped the wider tape and paper to the very thin tape. And so this whole wide tape is not actually stuck to the speaker. And I put a little plug in here, you know, it's just the top to a spray can, keep anything from dripping down on top of the connector where the reed spring goes. Anyway, I originally had it this size because I figured the that fiberglass resin might have a tendency to run a little bit, and I didn't want it to get down in this area where the speaker was. So what I've done now is we're going to go with the same plan, only we're going to use this 5-minute epoxy. I used it once, and I really didn't like it because it didn't come out of the bottom very well. I had to squeeze my brains out on this thing up here, and I had to fight it all the way. I didn't like that, so hopefully it won't happen this time. Anyway, I've got this thing on there again, and I've marked it with a pencil all the way around, and I'm going to use a credit card that I have shaped. Let me stick that up there. I have I took a credit card and cut it in half. I have a little, it's an old Walmart gift card really, and I'm just going to use that as my applicator. And I also have another one I shaped like this for shaping it around this way. So what we're going to do first is put a few lines of epoxy around there and just kind of thin it out real good. Then set the screen wire on it and press it down nice and flat as I can get it all the way around. And then smooth it out with this or maybe the card or whatever, get it nice and flat and smooth. And then let it harden up. And then I'm going to put another coating of fiberglass or epoxy on top of it. And we're going to put quite a bit of epoxy overlap here where the speaker cone meets the metal, right around in there. I want to have lots of good. I want a good solid connection here. I don't want this thing here pushing down in. So let's see how that goes. Now, according to the instructions, all I have to do is snap off this mess right here. Snap that off, and then push the plunger just like you would giving an injection, I guess. And there is a mixing rod that will pop out. That's that thing in the center there between the two black barrels. And then squirt it out on here, and then mix it really good. Get it real mixed. You're supposed to use the mixer in there, but that thing looks awfully flimsy to me. I'll probably wind up using this. Get it mixed real good, and then we'll go ahead and apply it to the speaker cone. Alright, I just popped off the top. Now let's see what happens. Last time I could not get that crap to come out of there. No matter what I did, it just would not come out. Let's see if we're going to... Oh my goodness, we're actually getting an even amount this time out of both of them. Yeah, it's probably going to take a couple of hands. Let me go ahead and finish doing this. I'm going to mix up quite a bit. I want to put a nice coating. Look at that. I don't believe it. Last time I had a heck of a time getting it out of there. Alright, now you're supposed to pull back on the plunger, which keeps that stuff from continuing to come out. Well, nothing like a one-handed deal, huh? Alright, well, let's see what happens. I'm going to mix it up. Alright, I think we've just about got it. Let's go ahead and take this smaller flat edge. Start applying this stuff all the way around. I want plenty of it up there where that metal meets the cone. I'm going to smooth it all the way down till we get to that pencil line that I put on there. Let me go ahead and finish that, and then I'll get back with you. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and position this thing right where I want it. Just going to take two hands again. I'll get back with you in a minute. Well, I'm very happy with the results thus far. So far, if nothing goes wrong, maybe it's a good thing I went with this 5-minute epoxy gel. We're gonna find out. It looks really good so far, nice and strong. It should be perfect. But you know, old man Murphy could show up at any minute. According to the instructions on the package, in 15 minutes this stuff is supposed to be dry. And it takes 1 hour to cure. So what I'm going to do is wait 1 hour, and then we'll put our upper layer of epoxy on there. It would probably hold just like this. But I'm not going to take the chance. You know, now's the time to do it right. I don't want to have to take this thing all back apart again in 6 months. So hopefully this will work. That screen wire will keep the epoxy from cracking, I hope, over time, you know. But she's nice and solid now. Alright, it's been about an hour. So we're getting ready to apply the second layer on this thing. Let's hope it goes as well as the first one. Mostly I want to concentrate this time up around right in this area. Well, so far so good. I'm using this rounded shaped card that I cut to get up close to the edge, right like that. I don't want to go down onto the speaker cone more than I have to. This stuff dries pretty good, dries pretty fast, but you do have an opportunity to do a little shaping on it before it does dry completely, so you can get to it. See, like that, just flatten that stuff out. Get her nice and flat. Just gotta take your time. Just because it says 5 minutes doesn't mean you have 5 minutes. You've got a little more time than that, actually. So take it on out. Smooth her down, just like that, all the way around. Let me keep working on it here. Well, that's it, folks. We got it right where we wanted. We didn't get a lot of sloppy area down in here. We got real lucky on that. So now we'll just let it dry for another hour, and then I'll put it up, and I think I've got some flat black spray paint. I'll probably mask off a little bit closer tomorrow on this, and give it a good shot of flat black spray paint, you know, kind of make it look a little bit better. Right now it's kind of a cloudy look. I think before it dries it'll be totally clear. If not, it doesn't matter, the paint will cover it up, and we'll have a good solid area here. It's already hardening up real good, see? I like that. I like that sound. Okay? I'm trying not to make this video too long, and once again we're back to our sound unit, and as you recall, I had almost no magnetism here on either of these magnetic poles. And you know, I knew right from the beginning that I could add magnets that would possibly you know, increase the magnetism, which would help a great deal with this speaker operation. A lot of people mentioned it, and I had already been experimenting with it by the time I even got my first comment about it. And here's what I had been doing. I had some small earth magnets, and I put one there, and I put one here, and that just didn't do a whole lot. I mean, you know, it was magnetic, but it just didn't do anything for the speaker operation. So then I had these big old heavy, really powerful ones, and I figured, well, you know, again, in the area of each of the poles, I went ahead and stuck this here like that. Then I stuck this one here like so, trying to get some magnetism. And you can see, even if it worked, I couldn't get the speaker cone there. It would stick up too much. So I tried it, 3 or 4 different ways, and it just wouldn't work. I needed to get it to where it would touch these magnetic poles. And one had to be north and one had to be south. They both could not be the same pole. Well, I was just about ready to give up, and I said, well, I'll try one more thing. And I didn't know if it would work or not, but I decided to put the metal on the top plate here. It wasn't touching the pole. And you'll recall that, like I said, there's no magnetism there at all. So I went ahead and I stuck this one here like so. These are really powerful, these boogers. And then I stuck this other one up here like this. And brought it out there. Now again, it's not touching the poles. Now let's take our thing. Look at that. Lots of magnetism. There it is. Got lots of magnetism. Now keep in mind they have to be oriented so they both have magnetism. If I was to spin this one around, I'd have this one with magnetism here, but nothing here. And then, of course, I had to remove the sound unit and turn it around and make sure that that reed was still centered between those two poles, because these magnets could have affected its positioning between the two poles. So that's it. And if the speaker works, once we put it back on there with this now great magnetism, then what I'm going to do is put a little glue behind, a couple, maybe a spot of glue here, and one here and here behind it, and we'll just glue them in place. That way they won't get knocked out of position, if the thing were to be dropped or something like that. So let's find out if that speaker is going to work. Do a quick test here. Okay, I've got it together now, just temporarily using this clip to hold it on. The sound will even improve once we get the nut and screw in there. I'll tell you what, this is a big improvement, huh? That's WSM out of Nashville. It's a little weak tonight, keeps fading in and out. The signal's not very strong.
Then you're experiencing true country music.
6:50 a.m.
Sounds a whole lot better. I'm happy with it. Well, we've got a lot more work to do on it, and which we'll finish up next time. I think we've got one more video after this, maybe two. I'm going to go ahead and fasten this whole thing up and button it up, and hopefully it'll continue to play well. And then we're going to go ahead and remove all of this from the cabinet and start de-rusting it so I can get it painted inside. I want to have this thing ready to hand over to my son on Thanksgiving when he comes down. Let's change the channel here.
People, when you have a disaster of this size, with millions of people that are without power, and lots of people without food, without heat.
Now that is much better, is it not?
Really aren't there, and I think unfortunately people have need to be better prepared individually. We need to be better